everybody, and welcome to the Wench Bench. Don't know why I did that, but where friends sit and talk about fabulous fictional females and how their stories have influenced us throughout our lives. My name is Fonda.
And my name is Alison.
Today, we're going to be diving into the wonderful, fantastic musical world that is Encanto.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so excited to finally talk about this movie with you.
I know. It was, dear listeners, it was like as soon as Allison finished watching it, she's like, Fonda, we need to. And I was like, I'm watching it tomorrow. Can we talk about it later? Don't spoil me.
I have things I need to say.
It was very good. If anyone hasn't watched Encanto, if you are able to do so, I would highly suggest it. I that is if you like musicals, anyways, and Disney movies, and it was really fun, and I think the best movie of 2021.
Yeah, it's up there. It was so good. I could not even.
What was your cry counter? Mine was 7. I cried 7 times.
It started and it just didn't stop. It was like the whole thing.
It was really good. Like, I didn't expect myself to cry, and it was like really therapeutic, actually.
Yeah. Well, they're like, you know what? Right off the hop, we're just gonna just get you going with this super sad origin story. With the most stunning music. So, before we get all like into the words, let's give you a little bit of a prepper for what we're going to be talking about today. Encanto is a 2021 animated Disney film. It is available to watch on Disney Plus for those who have that subscription. And it is a musical about a magical family in Colombia, with much of the music by Lin-Manuel Miranda of Hamilton fame. And oh man, does it ever fucking show. Because he has like a pattern to his songs. And of the 3 musicals that I have watched of his, which is Hamilton, this, and then In the Heights, he really loves ending like the first act with like an ensemble with like lots of layers in it, and like it's very similar like song pattern writing. And yeah, he definitely has a style.
For sure. I haven't seen In the Heights yet. It's on my list.
It's good. I enjoyed it. So I have a synopsis here that we can kind of mention some things. It's kind of a long synopsis, but that's because there's so much to talk about that I don't want to have to keep pausing and explaining what's happening. So I put together a relatively decent synopsis. Obviously, feel free to stop me if you think that I'm forgetting something.
I will interject if need be.
So, the story begins with showing a young Alma Madrigal, who is mostly known as Abuela throughout the movie, fleeing her home with her triplets, Julieta, Pepa, and Bruno, and her husband Pedro. Pedro is killed, and Alma and those who fled with them are saved by a wave of magic that emanates from her candle. This magic then grants the Madrigal family superhuman powers and brings to life a sentient home for them to all live in. The family uses their gifts to help build an entire village around their new home and to help everyone as much as they can. Julieta can heal people with food, Peppa can change the weather with her emotions, and Bruno can see the future. Fast forward to approximately 50 years later, Bruno has left the family since his gift was only causing trouble amongst the villagers and his family as well. And the sisters have each had children of their own and gotten married. All of the children received magical gifts when they came of age and a fancy door that gives them the coolest fucking room. It's so awesome, and I super want a door, and I want to find out what would be behind mine. I don't know about you, but...
I agree with what you said.
All of the children received their powers except for our main protagonist, Maribel, the youngest child of Julieta and Augustine. Her two older sisters are Isabella, who can make plants grow, and Luisa, who is super strong. Peppa. I know. We're going to get into Luisa, like, so much. I have a lot of notes on Luisa. It's fine. Peppa married Felix and also had 3 children. Dolores, who has super hearing, Camillo, who can transform into different people, and Antonio, the youngest cousin, who is set to receive his powers at the beginning of the movie. This ceremony to receive his powers is a particularly intense one because the last time Maribel did not receive her powers, and so there's a lot of pressure on poor little Antonio. But he does get his powers, and it's super exciting, and he gets the powers of talking to animals, which is just so cool, and I'm so jealous. And his room is all like jungle themed, and it has a bunch of animals in it, and it's so cute.
It was a really good moment. Especially the part with Maribel like walking with him
I
up
know.
to get his power. It was really sweet. It broke my heart. I was like, that was the first time I cried in the movie. Was that part?
Mirabelle is just such a for being the member of the family that doesn't have any superpowers. She really does do a lot to make her family feel loved and supported, which is sweet. But during this ceremony, Mirabelle feels like an outcast and steps away from the celebration only to see cracks spidering along the walls of Casita, which is what they call their home. By the time she fetches the others, though, they are gone. Mm-hmm. And the following day, Mirabelle decides to set out on a path to figuring out what is wrong with Casita and with their magic, and she wants to try and fix it. First, she talks to her sister, Luisa, who points her in the direction of Bruno's room, where she heads to look for answers. And she discovers evidence of his last vision that shows her standing in front of a crumbling casita.
It was shattered, though, upon her finding it.
It was shattered because it seems as if Bruno didn't want anybody to find it or to see it.
Yeah.
Because he loves his niece.
He just likes his family.
He does. Bruno's so cute.
I know. He's an outsider. He's like that weird uncle that, like, people love but also kind of don't get.
Don't really understand.
Yeah.
Dolores eventually overhears Mirabelle talking to her father about this prophecy, and the secret ends up getting out to everybody else in the family at a disastrous engagement dinner for Isabella.
Yeah, it's bunkers.
It's not great. Mirabelle ends up finding Bruno, who has been hiding inside the walls, and with Antonio's help, convinces him to have another vision that shows Mirabelle fixing the magic by embracing a young woman who looks a lot like her sister, Isabella. And when she tries to, she discovers that her older sister isn't as perfect as she once believed her to be, and they sing this awesome song, and her sister decides to make cactuses instead of flowers, which is hilarious. And then Abuela comes along and is upset because she sees this as Mirabelle corrupting Isabella, and so they get into this huge fight where Mirabelle basically says that the crumbling magic is all Abuela's fault because she has been putting so much pressure and stress on the rest of her family to be perfect that she hasn't been actually inspiring them to like be a loving and connected family. She's just been saying like, no, you have to be perfect all the time, and if you don't live up to my standards, then you're not good enough. And so she has been making Mirabelle feel like she's not good enough forever, which sucks.
Yeah, I don't... Part of me wonders if it was forever or just from, like, since the point of her receiving her powers.
It seems like it was really
Right?
from the point of when, she didn't get the powers that she was supposed to. After this argument, Casita completely falls apart and the candle's flame goes out. Mirabel runs away, and the person who finds her is Abuela, and she finds her sitting at the river where Pedro had died. And it's at this point where Abuela shares the real story, not this fantastical, beautiful story about about this miracle that happened. She shares the story, the true one, about the pain and the trauma and the terror that was that night. Not, and we're going to talk about that scene because I have that in my notes. It's beautifully done, and it made me cry so hard. This whole movie, I was like crying basically the whole time.
I know. This scene was, I think, really impactful in its own way, too, because it was the only song not in English.
Mm-hmm.
It was 100% in Spanish, and I think there's a reason why it was not translated to be for an English audience. And I feel like even if you didn't understand Spanish, the way the song was written through the melody, the instruments, like the mix, I feel like you could still understand when like the hard part of a song was coming. You know, like emotionally they did a really good job at like just having anyone be able to feel what the song was supposed to make you feel without having to know the words.
Exactly. And I think that's one thing that this movie does really well is, although there are moments that are clearly written and designed to represent this community, because like obviously I'm not Colombian, I'm a white girl, like, but there have been some really interesting like creators who are people of color who have been talking about it, and it's the way that this movie hits for a broader audience but also can get those subtle like acknowledgments of a culture and of an experience through something like having a song that's only in Spanish. It's like everybody can enjoy that scene, but it just hits different for somebody who is from that culture, and it's like, we wrote this for you to see you, kind of, and it's really so beautiful and so stunning. And after this kind of moment of reconciliation, Mirabel, Bruno runs up and tries to get everybody to blame it on him because he doesn't want them to blame it on Mirabel. So he tries to come along and take the blame. And everybody welcomes Bruno back, and they're like, hey, yay, we're super happy to have you again, to be a part of the family. And the villagers come and help them rebuild their house without any magic powers, without anything. They build their house back up, and they give Mirabel a doorknob, and she is the person who puts the doorknob on, and then the house gets its magic back. In the same way that the ceremony was supposed to give her her magic when she was younger, instead it re-imbued her family with magical powers. Oh. It's so beautiful because in Spanish, when you actually watch this movie in Spanish, it's like, I believe they say, we saved this for you. So it's like they saved her original doorknob, but when it was translated to English, they said, we made this for you. But it's like, in the Spanish version of the movie, it's like, no, like, this was your doorknob. It just, you weren't ready for it yet. Or like, this was how it was always supposed to be, kind of thing. Like, you were always supposed to bring us back together. And I'm just like, Mirabel. And then they all get their magic powers back, and it's happy, and everybody's friends. So that's the story. So, do you have anything specific you want to talk about first from this movie?
It's hard. I really liked the movie as a whole. Like, I every now and then there can be like one part where you're like, no, like I like not gonna talk about that, and then you're like, but this part, like this thing, the whole movie is the thing for me. I like really, really enjoyed it. The actors that they chose to voice act for the movie did a wonderful job. I thought visually the movie was striking and engaging, and I really personally enjoyed that in the movie it kind of, what was it? I remember watching some interviews about it, and a couple of people that were like designing characters were like, oh, like English grandmas or like American grandmas are different than my grandma. When someone's like from Mexico, my grandma acts exactly as Abuela does. And they were explaining like even from like Spain and Colombia, it's like it was really cool seeing Abuela in a lens that wasn't directed for me. And like after watching those interviews, I was kind of like listening. I was like, oh, okay. It's kind of like, in a way, for again someone that's not a part of the community and the culture, do you always remember those like slip-on sandal commercials that was like a I believe it was a Spanish mom, and she would like chuck the shoe, and it would like hit the child that was doing something bad, and it would like fling back. I always kind of like remember those commercials because it's like there's something about that humor. Like no one wants to hit their child with a shoe, but clearly there's something about like the shoe brand, but also like the community understanding, like that's just what certain moms or grandmas do. Like they make sure you know you're in line. And Abuela kind of reminded me of that, and it was unique because I feel like we also got to see it more through Maribel's lens. Right? Like, and I thought that was valuable. I don't know. Let's just get started because I like the whole thing.
Yeah, like the whole thing is so good, and like I extra want to drive home. Like at the top, like we are not part of this community. I'm going to be linking like a ton of TikTok people who I've been watching lots of videos of theirs. It's so easy to find content from people who are actually going to talk about the cultural context of a lot of the things that happen in this movie. But I also think that that is the beauty of this movie, is that although there is so much cultural context and so much that is very specific to that community, it also has hit in a way that like I haven't seen a movie hit like a generation of people as hard as this fucking movie did. And so many, like I've seen so many millennials just like attached to this movie and see themselves in some of the characters that are represented in a way that I don't think we've seen ever before. And so we're obviously going to be talking about this from our own experiences for this movie, but it covers a very specific type of generational trauma and does it in a way that is like kind almost and like understanding, and explains it in a way that children can understand and that they can see. And it's such a difficult topic to talk about, and yet they did it in a way that made it like beautiful and a good story. And that is something I really appreciate, and it just is such excellent storytelling. And I think that
sure.
like I think that comes down to I'm not giving any fucking I am not giving any credit to Disney as a company for this movie, because I have my problems with Disney, but I love some of their content. But this movie 100% is what it is because of its creators, because of those that wrote on it, those who were the voice actors, those who were the artists. They are the ones who fought to get this movie to be what it was and to be what resonated so much with the people who liked it. Because if Disney had their way, Louisa wouldn't have muscles. And like some of these songs wouldn't have happened. That song may not have been in Spanish. Like they fought for so many things that made this movie what it was. And I just...
It's also, I think, the first movie in a long while that's been a Disney movie where there isn't a, like, there's no villain in this movie.
No.
Like, there's issues and there's problems that are being solved and discussed, but there's no, like, villain that pops up in the last 10 seconds and it's like, I'm the bad guy.
Yeah.
Or, you know, like I am trying to think of other Disney movies, not including Pixar, which produces some stuff with Disney.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like most Disney movies, there is a vague villain or
Yeah.
a really obvious villain. And I think this is the first one where there isn't. And I think that's what makes it great, is it's not like Abuela's not the bad guy.
No.
Like she's sadly made her grandchildren feel these unfortunate emotions.
Mm-hmm. Because
But that doesn't mean she's the bad guy.
Exactly.
She's not like, right? So that's
she never got a chance to heal. And that pain and that trauma trickled down to her children and her children's children. And that is such a common story in so many families. And it's just like, yeah. And then it shows like, oh, healing comes through like love and community and communication. And like, it's this like, it's just a really good story about like trauma. And that's wild that they're just like, hey, let's make a children's show about generational trauma. And it's like, really? That's like, okay. I didn't know that that's what I needed, but apparently that's what I fucking needed this year. My coworker is Colombian, and his kids fucking love this movie because they get so excited because they sound like the characters on the screen sound like their dad.
Aww.
And he showed me a little video of like his daughter dancing to a bunch of the songs, and it's so fucking cute. And this movie is just adorable. Like, this movie has given me so much life. And then there was like that news story a while back of the little girl who like looks like Mirabelle, like who looks like little Mirabelle.
Oh, have you seen the one of the little boy that looks like Antonio?
Yes.
That one's cute too.
Because representation matters, and this is all we've ever wanted. It's just more representation. Okay, so first thing I want to talk about, it's just kind of Mirabelle herself and how much, like, it's a character that I think so many people can connect with because it's like that need, that desire to belong and to be important and to be special. And then everybody keeps telling her she's not. And it's like, no. But then she also makes everybody else around her feel special. Like Antonio, and she like protects him and keeps him safe in a way that the rest of the family is almost afraid to, because he has so much pressure on him to get his magic powers, to have a successful ceremony. But Mirabelle's just there like, you know what? Whatever happens, happens. And I love you and you're great. And it's like,
I know. And if you look at like her outfit on both her shirt and her dress, it's been pointed out and people have made like little clips of proof, but like she has stitched and sewn into her own clothes like different symbols that represent her family.
oh yeah, I saw that.
I find really wholesome.
Like, yeah, her family means so much to her, and she just wants to make them proud. Mirabelle's just so cute, and like, just like a tangent of like character design. Like she looks like a normal
whimsical
girl, like whimsical. They capture so much like magical realism, which is very much like a telenovela kind of vibe in this movie, which does come a lot from like that same culture. And I think that they bring it in so seamlessly into this movie, and it just gives me all the feels. And she looks like a normal girl. And the fact that she has glasses, which somebody pointed that out on the internet, that it's like, oh yeah, like this is kind of our first like main character with glasses. It's like, really? Like, I guess. Fuck. Like such a common thing.
I know. She's great. I truly love her as the main character for this movie. I also just like the voice actress is wonderful. She's done so many things.
Stephanie Beatriz?
Yes, from Brooklyn Nine-Nine. She's also, for anyone that cares, she voices Lady Kima in The Legend of Vox Machina, which
When
is
I
great.
found that out, I was
Shows
so excited.
right? Shows her range. Shows her range 100%. But I just really loved like the heart she put into Mirabelle, and I think it really showed throughout like everything else that Mirabelle therefore did. And it was just I also really like Mirabelle's relationship with Casita,
Yes. Oh.
right? Like, I think the movie does a good job at showing that the Casita, while being like the house and is there to help everyone that lives in the family, it's only really shown that the Casita will listen or assist Abuela or Mirabelle. That's something that I noticed after like watching it a couple times and hearing people point it out, that like no one else in the family that has magical powers really interacts with the house like the two of them do.
Yeah. Yeah, because
And
Abuela
I
doesn't
think
have magic powers either.
no, and she was alone in the house with three young kids. Right? So imagine like the connection she's built, but then also Casita is probably having this like youthful interaction from Mirabelle, and that's probably like a whole fun bag. And I just like, and the fact that the Casita protected her till the very end, when everything was crumbling, like, oh, I just like, the house needs to get a spotlight, and I just need to point out how wonderful this non-speaking, like, interactive house with a soul is, because at some points you feel like the house is the only one that has Mirabelle's back.
Yeah. Yeah, and like
In a way, right? Like,
he made a house a character. And I think there was a theory that the magic had to be like carried by somebody. Was like one of the theories is that there had to be like a soul to the house, and it started with Abuela. She was the original carrier, the original like holder of the magic, but Abuela is getting older, right? And so it's like, well, here is now the next generation. And Casita saw Mirabelle's potential and was like, well, she can be the next carrier, like the next light to lead the family, because she was doing that even before this part of the story. She was supporting her family. She was like helping them out and doing all of these little things that even though she didn't have magic, she still was a valuable member of the family. And one of those things that she did was offer to like help her super strong sister, who is just like
Louisa is the best.
I don't.
Louisa could be a great TikTok dancer. I'm not on TikTok, but like just from like some of the things she does, I'm like, Louisa would just like pop off on TikTok.
I'm just saying, Louisa 100% would love the Backstreet Boys and like NSYNC and like all those dance moves. I'm just like, this is giving me like early 2000s boy band vibes. I love it so much. And I didn't realize how much, like, I had heard the Louisa song before, and I was like, yeah, like, I get it, I connect.
Pressure.
The song Surface Pressure just hit me, like, through my core into my soul.
That was the second thing that made me cry. Was that song near the end? I was like, oh, oh.
And like when you listen to the words of the song, it is sung in this fun, upbeat, like super catchy way.
Poppy.
It's like it's pop through and through with the woes and like
and the dancing dog
and the dancing, and like it is 100% like a pop song, but the words are so like heavy in a way, because there was a lot of stuff in my family that I felt I needed to carry the burden of, because Louisa is the strongest member of this family. She is literally carrying massive amounts of weight. I believed that I had to figuratively carry massive amounts of weight, the emotional weight and like all that kind of stuff. in my own family. And so that song just like broke me as a person. And I was like, I don't like, I don't feel that way anymore. Like, I've moved on, done like personal growth stuff. But yeah, like when I was younger, it was like I felt like I had to be the strong one. I had to be the one who wasn't the problem. I had to be good. I had to be perfect. I had to not make mistakes. I had to carry that emotional burden of the family because there was other things going on that I didn't want them to then have to deal with my emotions. And then yeah, just oh my god.
I know. From a different perspective, I feel like anyone, even if you don't have the pressure of like from a family perspective, like if you've been in anything where someone's like, oh, you're fine, quote unquote, right? Like you got this, I can rely on you all the time, and like these things aren't going to bother you, you're not going to break, so to speak. I feel like whether you have that in family, with work, or maybe even sometimes with school, depending what you have going on and who's in your community. Like, I feel like this song can hit home for anyone that's had to deal with immense amount of pressure from somebody. Because for me, what hit for it was the pressure of, like, I never received it when I was younger, and I still don't feel like I get too much pressure from my family, but I feel like I have a lot of pressure with work. Especially being in a caregiving field as a teacher. I feel like there's so much pressure and expectation to just like carry on. And so that's what got me for this song. And so it's just like
It's such a good song. And then the fact her character design.
Oh,
like, she's buff.
I love her so much.
And they had to fight to get her to be buff. And now there's like not very many toys of her because Disney is a piece of shit. And they're like, yeah, obviously kids aren't going to want this super buff, badass, super cool lady. They're going to want the flowery princess one, which don't get me wrong, Isabella is also cool. And I do love Isabella. But like Louisa she was like that dark horse character that like nobody expected to like blow up the way that she did. And I think especially because of that song, because of all of the different ways that it can be interpreted, all of the different ways that people can listen to it and be brought to their own struggles and their own feelings, then like people just connected with her. And then when she thought that she was like, when she starts losing her powers, she's like crying all the time.
I know. It's also quite funny because it reminds me of like Hercules in a way.
Yeah.
From the Disney movie when like Hercules suddenly getting weak.
Yeah.
And it's funny because like Louisa has the muscle throughout the whole thing, but like just suddenly loses the strength appropriated with the muscle. I'm just like, I don't know if that would work realistically because you got so much mass to you, lady. Like, I feel like you can still lift stuff. But part of me is like, but do you know how to lift? You know what I mean? Like, yeah. That's what I'm wondering is like, do you know to lift with your legs and not your back, Louisa? Because you've had all this strength and you just like grow the muscles incorrectly. I don't know. But anyways, she's just great. And I love the last bit in the movie when she's like, but sometimes I cry. Yeah. And they're like, oh, like the sisters are connecting because they're like, but me too. And it just like reminds us that like she felt like she had to just be like this unmovable object.
Yeah.
But with everything else, that it was like shift, like she wasn't being crushed, but the pressure was like a diamond, like weighing on her. The fact that she just couldn't feel like she could cry, but yet she still cried a lot in the movie for the most part, which was kind of fun, I thought. I liked seeing her cry dramatically and be like this, the kind of ugly crying sounds. And...
Well, like, because it's like she no longer, in losing her powers, it was like, that is what tipped her over the edge. Like, all she's like, I can keep carrying more. Like, I am strong. I can do this. This is what I'm comfortable doing. But as soon as the powers were gone and it took her out of that comfort zone of simply carrying the burden, and now all of a sudden, like, she had to come face to face with the fact that that is all that she thinks that she's good for. And it just, like, it took her over the edge. And now she's like, oh no, she's crying all the time. And, like, that is, like, that is the part of the song that, like, really truly connected with me the most, is like, the line that's, I'm pretty sure I'm worthless if I can't be of service. It's like,
I know.
for me as a person, I spent a lot of my life doing everything for other people, and as soon as I thought about doing something for myself, or like being selfish, it was incredibly difficult. And like, I've come to terms with that. It's still hard, but I've come to terms with that. And I don't like feel that way necessarily all the time anymore. But yeah, like that, just like tying your value in what it is that you do for other people is not healthy. It's good to do things for other people, but when like that's all that you think you're worth, it's like, it's so much. So much. Anything else you have to say about Louisa?
Just, she's great.
So
she's great. I hope, like, you know, it'd be really cool if they did like a short movie of just Louisa.
I need
wish
more
she was
movies
in it more
about this family.
I also wanted more Camilo. I wanted more of him.
I know.
I was bummed that he wasn't in it as much. And Antonio too. Like, I'm glad he was it. Like, I just wanted, like, the whole cast was great. The whole group of people were amazing, and I was kind of bummed that it wasn't longer in a way.
I just want more of everybody. Like, I love Dolores too.
Oh my god. Dolores. She is up there in my top 3. And it's really hard to have a top 3 with this movie.
Dolores was so good. Before we get on Dolores, though, we should talk about Isabella, the oldest sister of Mirabel.
Yes. Oh.
So
I have a lot to say about that.
Oh my god. Isabella is so, like, I understand the character so much. Like, I never felt like, I never had that kind of, like, pressure put on me as being, like, the oldest one, as the one who has to carry the, like, the weight of being perfect, of being, like, the one with all, like, the attention. And you see she kind of looks like Abuela when she was younger, too. And, a TikTok person called this person's TikTok is Bzz, it's a bee.
Okay.
It'll be it's in the list of TikToks that Fonda's gonna put in the show notes. But they mentioned that you'll see how her aesthetic, her color aesthetic, matches Abuela's throughout the whole movie until the end, where she matches her family. So she was like this pink purple color, and then she goes into being more like blue and like cold colors, because then Peppa's side of the family is all like yellows and oranges. And so like Isabella had always kind of been everything Abuela wanted her to be. And then at the end, when she starts discovering that she can just be herself and she can be who she is, she kind of slides back over to her like direct family, as it were. And I think that was a really clever, I don't doubt that was an act, like, that's not an accident. Like,
I feel like nothing ever is a coincidence, you know, like,
no. But her song,
I know, her song got me. I didn't think it would, purely because I've never connected with someone that's like outwardly supposed to be the perfect one, that without truly meaning to, like, she is mean to Mirabel,
Yeah.
100%. Like, we can't ignore that. Like, she talks down to her and stuff, and tells her to, like, get out of the way because she's not being helpful. And I never thought I was going to connect with her until her song hit. And it's like you said, I don't feel like I'm having to put up things because I'm perfect, but no shade to my family. I've been very successful out of me and my sibling.
Mm-hmm.
I went into university straight. I had good grades. My parents didn't really support me with university. I decided to take out loans. The odd time they would help, but it was usually for like textbooks or certain small things. I got married at a young age with someone I was with for a very long time. We got a house a few years back that we paid for on our own, and like, while I don't feel like I'm like outwardly like really really successful because I still have struggles, my parents constantly support and talk about what my brother is going through.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like they forget to ask me if I'm okay. And the reason I found that out more so recently, which was before the movie, which was on Canadian Thanksgiving, I remember bringing up, like, well, why do you not worry about me? And they're like, oh, because you're fine, Fonda. Like, we know we don't have to worry about you. And I was like, that
Mm-hmm.
hurt.
Yeah.
Because, like, I'm glad that they don't have to stress out, from a middle class family that didn't have a lot growing up. And I'm glad they're able to support my brother, who I know does need more help out of the two of us. It still sucks that, like, they feel like I'm okay because I've done really well.
Mm-hmm.
So, in a way, I feel like I can't ask them, like, I can't fuck up.
Yeah.
And this song, even though it was from a different perspective about, like, a different side of pressure, that really got me. It was from that song on that I connected more so with Isabella than I did from the beginning of the movie.
Yeah, like because it showed her realizing her like potential, right? Like she can be so much more than what Abuela wanted her to be. And I don't
Mm-hmm.
think she realized that until she like grew a cactus instead of a flower. And it was asymmetrical and it wasn't perfect and it was pointy and it was sharp. And it wasn't this like
I
soft,
loved
dainty,
it.
perfect, beautiful thing. That's all she was ever told she needed to be, right? Like she just needed to be
Mm-hmm.
beautiful. And for to have that in a Disney movie, which Disney historically has been telling you that being beautiful and being perfect means that you are a good person, to show Isabella as somebody who is flawed, who is like who's mean to her sister, who's like a very normal older sister, to show her as a character that has more depth than just being pretty, I think is a very
Mm-hmm.
fun thing that was put into this movie, and I enjoyed it immensely.
I know. I liked that we got to learn through the eyes of Isabella. Learn through the eyes of Mirabelle for the movie too, because their musical number together was really
It's so
nice.
good. I constantly
The
get the
difference.
like hurricane of jacarandas stuck in my head like constantly.
It was so good. It was also the first song, like, out of the two sisters, she didn't sing with Louisa,
She
but
didn't.
she did sing with Isabella. And I think that was purposefully done because I think she does have a better relationship with Louisa.
It seems so.
And so I think for her it was like, "Oh, I need to listen to you." The song for Louisa was like, "I need to listen that you are stressed out, that like you're not just okay. Like outwardly you look like you're fine, but you're not. So I'm going to listen to you for this song." Whereas with like Isabella, it was like, "Oh, I'm hearing you and I want to connect with you and tell you that these new things you're doing are great." And so I kind of liked that,
Yeah.
how Mirabelle played two different roles when her sisters were having their solo, so to speak, numbers.
Yeah. Yeah. But like kind of last like major relationship that I want to talk about in regards to Mirabelle, because I still want to talk about like the other female characters and the other male characters too, but like really in regards to like the story points was the story of like Mirabelle and Abuela, because that's really the kind of core of this movie is those two, Mirabelle finding acceptance and Abuela finding healing through their relationship together. Because in the movie, as we mentioned at the very beginning, you see this very beautiful, very subdued story of how Abuela loses her husband, Pedro. And when it happens, she kind of just, afterwards, she kneels to the ground and this light lights up everything. And it's this kind of beautiful, soft, romanticized story. And at the end, we see the exact same scene, but I think more truthfully to how it actually happened, which shows Abuela or Alma at the time, like not wanting to let him go, even though she knows that he needs to go to like to protect them, to keep them safe. And then she like, after she watches him die, which is the implication that she watched her husband die, she crumbles and she screams, and the pain and the sadness and just like the absolute like overwhelming amount of trauma that she had to deal with 3 babies. Like it was huge. Like it wasn't, she's been cushioning her children and her grandchildren and the entire community itself from that pain, from that terror, from that trauma. And she took that all on. They didn't ask her to do that, but that is the strength that comes, that brings so much respect in a lot of those communities. That comes with like those matriarchs, is that they feel that need to protect. And sometimes they need to let that go through the years. But that's what she had to do. She had to protect her family. And like, it's so fucking sad. Like, I just like ugly cry when I see that scene the second time. Because it's just like, you understand why it is that she cares so much about protecting her family. Because she doesn't want them to have to see that again. And it's like...
Or even just experience it. She just doesn't want anyone to have to feel that. And through doing so, she inadvertently makes them feel some other negative emotions.
Yeah.
And makes them feel like they can't be a normal family, if that makes sense. Like, they're not normal because they're the Madrigals and they have all this magical power and they're cool and they got a great house. And so she just, like, I think forgot along the way what maybe she really wanted with a family. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a theory that the magic and that Casita is Pedro.
But wouldn't
protecting
Casita...
his family?
But Casita is the female pronoun for house. I mean, I like that, but also I'm like, but wouldn't they be a more on the nose and give the male word for a house?
Yeah.
I like to think it was, without hearing that theory before, my thought was it was Abuela's sort of like like she had some sort of guardian, and it has to be with the butterflies is what I perceived it as. And I thought like the butterflies spiritually were like encompassing the house and like guiding her. Either way, I think they're both not wrong.
No.
I'm just confused in a language sense, because I'm like, I know that there are two different, there's a masculine and a feminine word for house, and I know they used the feminine one, and now I'm just a little confused.
Well, because it's all up for interpretation, right? Like, I kind of
100%
saw, like, especially when you watch those two scenes, like, if you watch them, like, back to back, the first scene looks like the magic came from his sacrifice. Whereas the second scene looks like the magic came from her grief, from her like all-encompassing grief. It looked like it more came from Alma than came from like the sacrifice, which I like to think that that's what happened. That's how I interpret it personally. I just thought it was a cute idea that Pedro's in there fucking.
You know, I bet you there is an aspect of him a part of the family.
And well, his picture falls too, like as the like it focuses on his picture falling in as the house is crumbling. So lots of stuff. Another really interesting theory that I saw on TikTok from Lucy Lubu. She did a bunch of videos talking about how each member of the family is a pretty good representation of a different role / type of trauma in toxic families, which I find really fascinating. So like Camillo's character, a lot of children in sort of like toxic family environments or any sort of family environment really, he becomes what people expect him to be. So he's very rarely himself. And you notice that he constantly turns into adults, and like adultification is a very common response from children who are experiencing sort of any type of like family trauma. And so there's adultification there. Peppa is like gaslighting because everybody keeps telling her not to feel things, and it's like, no, like don't feel that, like you don't need to be sad right now. And they keep like forcing their own opinions of how she should be feeling instead of just like her husband, who is amazing and I love him so much.
I love them.
Their relationship is adorable. And he's just like, no, like I like it. We got married in a hurricane. It was great. I had a blast. Because I love you.
What a beautiful day, but anyway.
And like he's the one who's like constantly, he acknowledges her feelings and he acknowledges her experiences and what it is that she's going through, and then she's able to process her emotions and control the weather better than when people are just telling her just stop. And so it's like, oh, like there's gaslighting. And then there's the perfect child role, which is Isabella. There's the strong, like the strong character is very clearly like Luisa, and then a character like Dolores who's constantly hearing everything. She shuts down because she's like almost afraid to be heard, and it's like, oh, like it's a really fascinating little series of things. Not necessarily that it's like this is their intention, but looking at the movie, it is really interesting seeing and then talking to people who've seen it, seeing all the different characters that people connect with. Because although I don't necessarily like connect with Camillo, a friend of mine like really does. And like she had gone through like, she does the whole thing where like she almost performs for her family. Like she wants to make
a face.
She puts on a face, and it's like, so very fascinating stuff.
I have the song We Don't Talk About Bruno in my head.
It's stuck in my head now forever. We should talk about Bruno though.
Bruno!
Everybody's favorite like dirty uncle.
Dirty uncle. No, I know why, because he's literally with rats. And he's living, and he probably hasn't showered in a while. But he's not a dirty uncle in my mind. He's just like
so grimy. And like... So Bruno left his family and was hiding in the walls because he loved them so much. You end up seeing that like he looks through the little crack so he can have dinner with them.
He has like a little spot, and like I like his relationship with the rats. I find it really funny.
Yes.
And kind of like cool, but like it's definitely interesting having like in this version when a character can see or gets prophecies of the future, instead of being like this sort of like high, mighty, angelic sort of like everyone's going to receive their prophecy constantly. They want to know things, you know, they're so thankful and above and beyond. He's treated differently because he's like, well, I can't tell you what they mean. I'm just giving you this etched piece of sand glass to like you know, show you what I can see. And everyone gets mad at him because, like, or whenever he says anything, like when he, at the end of the movie, he tells his sister, like, it wasn't a prophecy. I could just see you were sweating.
Yeah.
And I wanted you to, like, calm down about your wedding, right? Like, he wasn't telling...
I wasn't telling you there was going to be a hurricane. I'm telling you that you're going to feel things and that that's okay.
Yeah, but, like, the poor guy, anytime he tried to do anything, everyone's like, right? Like, is this, like, it's like, clearly, no, the dude has to go through a lot of effort to actually get a prophecy, as is shown by the movie. Yeah. But then it made something interesting that I thought about. Is this the first time he had the person that the prophecy was about with him while he was doing it? Because I wonder if, from the whole beginning, if these people would have participated in the process, could they have guided his visions like how Mirabel guided him to follow the butterfly to get more information from the prophecy? Because that's what I was thinking about the whole time. It's like, this poor dude just gets what he gets. Yeah. And he tells you, and it's up to the person to try to, like, interpret and find more from what he gets. Anyways, it was just... I love Bruno so much. The song... I love his acting. I love him putting on a bucket and exiting the house when it's crumbling. And he just is so sweet too.
Yeah.
Like, he cares so much in a really awkward way that's endearing.
Yeah, he clearly loves his family so much. And, like, yeah, he had to leave because they didn't want him there anymore, but he, like, couldn't leave. And then I am of the team that says Bruno deserved a better fucking apology than he got.
Oh, same. I feel like I agree.
I have seen, like, actual, like Colombian creators who are like, oh, I couldn't even believe he got that much. Like, and so, like, I feel like it's a very, like, cultural thing, maybe, that I just don't understand. But, one of these, like, TikTok creators, she does the funniest fucking videos. She had, like, kind of this idea that Dolores actually, because I also believe that Dolores has known that Bruno's there, like, the whole time, but she just didn't tell anybody.
Well, she kind of coins about it in the end of one song, too, right?
Yeah, like, she's like, I heard him every day. So this creator acts out Dolores listening to the rat telenovelas. And so it's like they're, like, having breakfast or something, and she pretends to be Abuela, like, talking to Dolores, like, asking her to go do stuff. And then it's like, aren't you listening to me? And Dolores is just sitting there, like, staring off into space, listening to Bruno act out a rat telenovela from behind the walls. She's like, oh, like, scandalous. Oh. And it's very good.
I like to think Dolores has a soundproof room. You know what I mean?
I'd assume so.
Like, it would suck to hear everything all the time, and I'm sure she's probably really good at drowning it out, like my students are. When I'm trying to talk to them and they're just like, what? Like, I'm sure she's probably really good at doing that. But I also like to think she probably has, like, a nice soundproofed room.
Yeah.
Where she doesn't have to worry about hearing anything outside her own, like, safety nook.
Oh, probably. I've seen some incredible Dolores cosplays too. Just, like, people just being like, oh, I have that in my closet. Like, they run and they all of a sudden dressed up and look just like Dolores. And I'm just like, yay.
I love Dolores. She's also really fantastic. And I feel like her and Bruno would probably get along a lot too, because she probably, like, knows, right? Like,
yeah.
She hears people's secrets all the time, and he tells people the future and how these people might react to them. She probably hears it. But then she probably hears Bruno be like, that's not... I didn't want to... No, you just asked me to find out. You shoot the messenger. Poor guy.
Yeah. That creator is Nikki Marina on TikTok. Also one of the ones that will be linked. But yeah, I freaking love Dolores. She's so cute. And then one of the other ones that we haven't talked about yet is Julieta.
I wish she was in it more.
I wish she was in it more because she's just so, like, she's just like the ultimate mom, and like she heals people by making them food, which is just like the most mom ass thing.
She also, her relationship with Mirabelle is like really kind, and part of me also wonders if she does like kind of overprotective of Mirabelle in a way. Like she's like, oh, but you're perfect to me, and it's like that's great, but also like part of me wonders if she, in my perspective, because sometimes when I'm trying to talk to my mom and my mom's like, oh, but honey, it's fine, you're okay, it's like, thank you for viewing me in this wonderful light, but I would really just like it if you could hear me for this one moment. She kind of reminds me of like that mom who's like always going to be there and be supportive of you, and in doing so kind of accidentally doesn't allow you to open up more than you could, you know what I mean?
And well,
I don't think that's a bad thing by any means, because I think she might be thinking that's what Mirabelle wanted the whole time. Because you can tell she cares so much, like especially when she's seen Mirabelle go through all this stuff near the second half of the movie. It's so heartbreaking, and I was like,
she's such a good mom. But
her
like
relationship with her husband is funny.
Oh my god, it's so funny. And like that's one of the things too that like you notice all throughout the movie is like everybody's treating Mirabelle like she's like fucking useless. And yet there's her father and her uncle also don't have powers. Like they're trying to set up this party and there's townsfolk there doing completely normal things. And like it's like Mirabelle is capable of doing that, but everybody's just like, it's like compared to the rest of her siblings, she is considered as like quote unquote less than. And so it's like, well, you can't do anything then. And so she's just like, no, like just let me fucking participate. Like that's all I want to do.
She's like, let me just carry this damn basket.
Yeah, like carry this basket, hang some streamers, like craft some cute little like crochet things.
Yeah.
And her dad's over there getting fucking stung by bees.
Left and right. Useless. He means well, but
played by who's that voice? Is that Wilmer Valderrama? My words are bad.
I can't tell you. The voice was not familiar for me.
There's so many incredible fucking voice actors in this movie.
I know.
It is Wilmer Valderrama. So like, from like that 70s show. For anybody who watched that.
I did. I did watch it.
Yeah, you did. That's kind of surprising, to be fair. But, oh my god, so many good voices. The voice for Isabella is Diane Guerrero, and she is in Jane the Virgin, which is like a really good sort of
I never watched that series.
It's good. It's very telenovela inspired. And she's in that, and she is so good in it.
Peppa?
Yes, Peppa. Oh, guys. I feel Peppa in like a... like when I'm having a bad day.
I know. I feel like I wish Peppa was in it more. Like, I know I said I connected a bit with Isabella at the end, but through the whole thing, I remember just looking at Peppa, and I'm like, I would be Peppa. That's who I would be in this entire this show. Sorry, in this movie. I know for a fact, like, if I had powers in a family like that, like, I would be Peppa. I would be the Peppa. And I love her. She's so great. Like when she pops into the nursery and like accidentally startles Mirabelle, and she's just like has thunder, and she like shushes it away very cartoony, and she's like trying to calm down, and she's just like, no, like I'm going to stay calm. Like we can't talk about anything that's stressing me out. I feel like I spiritually understand her.
Yeah. And the cute thing is that, like, it's not necessarily, like, a bad thing when she has thunder. Which, like, when you actually pay attention, like, to her, to what she's doing emotionally versus like the weather that is happening. It's like, it's not, oh, I'm happy, so it's sunshine. It's like, no, like her
Like
strong
when
emotion. It's almost,
Antonio
yeah.
is about to get going and like she like feels like, you know, nostalgic in a way, probably being like, oh, my little boy's growing up a bit more, right? Like he's getting his powers. Like you see like a little like rain cloud start to form. Like
Yeah, like it's not.
she has multitudes. It's not just
She's so
happy
good.
and angry.
Yes, and all, although I'm a greedy bitch and just really want like a fat Disney character, I think this movie did a really good job at having different body types for their female characters. Because like Isabella and Dolores, although they're both like thin, are different. Like they do look different. They do look like different body types. And Peppa is quite like thin and like she just looks like an anxious wreck like all the time, and I love it. And the varying skin tones I thought was really cool because it showed like it's like, yeah, like there's not just like
everybody had a different nose. And I love
Yeah.
that because Disney's so bad at giving a lot of women the same like pixie like cute
tiny
button
little nose. Yeah.
I know, but they all had a different nose. And Isabella has the same nose I do. And I feel very seen from that.
Oh, like it was. I think they did a really good job at like varying it up a little bit. But I will still complain every movie I don't get like a positively portrayed fat person in a Disney movie. I will be sad because
Yes.
they're like always villains or they're always fucking useless. So
Or
it's
they're like a
oh,
random character you meet for one scene and then they're gone.
if there is a villain in this movie, it is the villager who gave freaking who gave Mirabelle that basket of like the special not special basket.
Yeah.
'Cause he's an asshole.
The not special.
If there is a villain, it's him.
Yeah, that guy. I was like, oh, fuck you, sir.
Because he's a dick.
uh,
I was like, you're
yeah,
rude.
or being like, oh, I hope this party's better than the last one. I mean, nothing.
He's such a jerk. Yeah, so he's the villain.
I hope by the end of this movie, like, Mirabelle better have her own fucking bedroom. Like, that's, like, I can't believe she just lived in the nursery, right? And, like, she shared it with Antonio for a bit, but, like, why?
It's a gigantic house. You could at least give her her own bedroom. It doesn't have to be
Right?
magical.
I know. Oh my god. That was the one thing that got me. I was like, the whole time you've been in the nursery and like you're just gonna keep staying there? Like, no, like she better have her own damn room at this point.
Yeah. Yeah.
In my opinion.
I can't remember if it is right away that the doors show them as adults, but there was another theory that I read about the doors and how Antonio's door is the first one. This shows him as a kid. All of the other ones show them as adults.
I remember reading that theory too. It was a really good one, talking about how the difference of with Mirabelle being the one that walked with him and sort of like was accepting of where they are at the moment, right?
Yeah.
And like valuing where they currently are in their existence or something, like enabled the door to like feel what was ever inside Antonio at the time to allow him to have his cool door, versus before when it was like Abuela, they probably were thinking of all the expectations that were now going to be placed upon them and what they had to live up to.
Almost
Gave them,
having
like,
the doors
an adult
themselves.
door, and I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, almost like having the doors themselves be like prophecies in a way too, because it's like, yeah, like this is what you're gonna be, and this is the role you are going to play in your family. And Antonio gets to be himself, and he gets to be this sweet little boy who just thinks of everybody else, and it's just the most adorable.
Like when he warmed up Abuela's seat, he asked
With like
the
possums
raccoons.
or some shit.
I thought they were raccoons. Could have been
I don't
possums, but I
know.
thought they were raccoons because there were a lot of mischievous raccoons
They were
in the
so
later
cute.
half.
Antonio's such a good, sweet boy.
I love him so much.
Yes. Yeah.
He's adorable.
I just want more about like the whole family, because like, don't get me wrong, I love the fact that the story followed like this sort of like matriarchal line. Like it was very focused on like the female side of the family. And I really liked getting to like hear that story, but then I also feel like we didn't get to have like those moments with Antonio and Camillo, and I think that would be like valuable. I just want more. That's it.
I know. Do you have a favorite song? For me, I know for a fact it's We Don't Talk About Bruno. Like I just can't get over that beat. It's a great beat. But do you have a song that you feel like you always kind of like go back to or gets stuck in your head most often?
It is Surface Pressure. It is in my head, and it will live there forever. It's just, I loved like boy bands and stuff. Like really, you watch that and you're like 100% Isabella, love the Backstreet Boys, or 100% 100% Louisa, love the Backstreet Boys. Like all of the dance moves, it's like I did that dance move to like the Spice Girls, and so it just like it had the right blend of like nostalgia and words and like everything just kind of pieced together to make it like my favorite song.
Oh,
I love it so much.
it's really good.
So good.
Yeah. I just like the movie a lot.
It's such a good movie. This is gonna be like our longest one of like the movies we talked about.
Is it?
It's like we're at an hour 14 right now.
How much more do you want to talk about?
Nothing else, but like
Oh,
all
okay.
of our other ones are like
Allison.
super short.
Yeah,
No,
they
I
are
have
short. They
that's
are
it.
short.
Like yeah.
Sorry, I panicked for a second. I was
No.
like, what?
I covered it all. That's all my notes.
Okay.
That's everything.
Because
I did it.
it is, yes. This movie deserves the length, though, to be fair.
It does. It does. Oh, it's so good. But yeah.
If you were to get a door, not in the same family, but like let's say magical doors existed that you receive your powers from across the world, and that's like a norm. What do you think your door would be, and what power?
I feel like I'd have something to do with like telekinesis kind of stuff.
Oh.
Like I feel like that one wasn't touched on, but I feel like that is very much like my vibe. Kind of like halfway between like being super strong, but also like building things. Like I would, yeah.
Ooh, yes, your job as an electrician would be much easier.
It would be so much easier. Oh my god. I talk about like magneto powers all the time at work. It's just like, do you know how quickly I could wire a house with magneto powers? It'd be so fast. I wouldn't even need to drill. I just need bits on the end and just plow through the studs. It's fine. So I do talk about it all the time. I'm just like, God, superpowers would be great. I was promised, as was my husband, as was everybody, that I would get special magic powers from my vaccine, and I haven't got them yet, and I'm very upset. I am now 3 shots in, and I do not have magic powers yet, and I am upset by it. But yeah, I think that it would be like kind of like telekinesis stuff, and it would be like really like because I love like super cool like old school like architecture and stuff, like old houses with like weird sunken living rooms and like just like that wild bananas shit that used to happen when people actually had fun building houses and that they weren't just trying to like knock them out as quick as possible. So it would be like the most wild like architectural room with just like stairs leading in weird places and like lots of like cubby holes and like secret like hallways and stuff. I think it'd be really fun. It'd be like a big giant maze and I would love it.
I would panic.
So what would yours be?
I think it would be empathy, like being able to actually feel another person's emotion.
I already do that enough. I'm hard pass.
I know. I think it's purely just because of like where I am with my career and other stuff, and how strong I feel with mental health being really important. I think having the ability to like know exactly how a person is feeling, I think could help with that. Which I think would suck if I could never turn it off.
Yeah.
But then I think my door would be like one of those mood rings. I think that's what my door would be like. It'd be like changing in color depending on like who walks by. It could show what kind of like mood you're in.
That'd be cool.
Yeah. And then I think inside I would have, the dogs can't leave, but I think inside my room would just be a bunch of therapy dogs.
Just all therapy
so
dogs.
I could just like chill out in a sea of cute dogs to just like complete my stress cycle, if that makes sense, from like helping people. And like aromatherapy teas, like I think that's what my room would be.
Yeah, like super chill space.
Oh yes, dim lights all the time. Lo-fi music in the background.
Yes.
That would be me. And I'm not mad about it.
Okay. So I hope you enjoyed our episode about Encanto. I hope it made sense.
You know what? If it didn't, go watch the movie. Like,
Yeah,
if
it'll
you
make
can.
sense. Just watch the movie. It's fine.
Find someone who you can borrow their account from.
Yeah, just steal somebody's Disney Plus account. It's fine. They don't really need your money, but the movie needs your money.
Don't.
So, you know, my
Yes.
go-to, vote with your wallet. If you like this movie, we're more likely to get more shit from Disney if you actually spend money on the movie. So there's that. But yeah, you can find us wherever podcasts can be found. Please make sure to rate, review, and subscribe if you haven't already. You can follow us on Tumblr, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube at Wench Bench Pod. And if you want to reach out, you can send us an email at wenchbenchpod@gmail.com. All of the art for the Wench Bench was designed by the wonderful Tessa Joyce Riecken. You can find her on Twitter and Instagram at Werebile. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you soon. Speaking of which, we are taking a little break. So the next day after this one that a episode is supposed to come out, we are not going to be having an episode. So like 4 weeks from now, you're going to be getting your next new one. Yeah.
We'll put out a reminder trailer, a little blurb informing you.
Yeah. Need a little mental health break. Life has gotten crazy. It's fine.
2022 has been a weird couple of months.
It's been weird so far. It's been a lot. Yeah. So thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.